on a type of cancer which is much misunderstood. Rachel Avery works for the incredible, and I mean incredible, Roy Castle Lung Cancer Foundation. She actually joined the charity because her own father, Keith Wright, died from the disease at the age of just 67 in 2009. Rachel is the Director of Marketing and Communications at the Roy Castle Lung Cancer Foundation, and delighted to have her on Talk Breakfast. Rachel, good morning.
Good morning, Jeremy.
It's that word that gets so many people. I wanted to get people just for a few minutes this morning to stop and think about it. Let's talk specifically about the Roy Castle Lung Cancer Organisation, because it's an incredible organisation. Tell us why it was set up, Rachel, and what it sets out to achieve.
So the charity was set up in 1990 by the incredible Professor Ray Donnelly, who was a thoracic surgeon at the time, and he was fed up basically of seeing patients too late. He was a chest surgeon. He could surgically remove lung cancers if they were caught early enough, but he wasn't seeing people in time. By the time they got to him, it was too late for that kind of treatment. So there was nothing really being done about it. There was no research going into lung cancer, so he took it upon himself to do that. And 32 years later, we're still here funding research. We're still here supporting all patients that are affected by all types of lung cancer, and we're still raising awareness of the disease.
And the late, great Roy Castle, the reason I believe, and if I'm wrong, tell me, was so instrumental about his name being put to this is because he died of lung cancer not from smoking, it was from secondary lung cancer, so basically being in that sort of environment. Is that right, Rachel?
Yeah, so Roy Castle was a never smoker, and it was attributed, his lung cancer was attributed to playing in the smoky jazz clubs, obviously as an incredible musician and trumpeter. And that's a really important message, actually, because even now people still think you need to smoke to get lung cancer, and that is certainly not the case. We use the line, if you have lungs, you can get lung cancer, and we're here to support you through that.
Tell us about the new cancer screening campaign that's already been launched to try and kickstart early intervention, because this is massively important as a source of information for people.
It really is. I mean, lung cancer is an incredible disease, difficult disease to diagnose early. Symptoms quite often present after it's already too late. So NHS England has started rolling out what's called a targeted lung health check. And these are pilot programmes around the country at the moment. There's 23 at the moment, with more coming in April. And it's for people 55 to 74 who have ever smoked. And that could be that they're still smoking now, or they smoked 30, 40 years ago. They're invited for a checkup, and if they're deemed high risk, they will be invited for a CT scan, most of which is being done in a mobile scanning unit in the heart of the community. So it's making it as easy as possible for people to get to these appointments and get diagnosed early as possible. After this, I'm shooting off to Stoke, where I'm going to meet a man called Harry, who was diagnosed early through the Stoke Targeted Lung Health Check programme. He's had surgery and he's now recovering really well, and that's the key. If we can catch it early, we can do more about it.
And I think that's the point that I want to make in a minute, but I want to hear first about your own story, because what drew you to this job, what drew you to this charity was your own father, Keith.
Yes, yeah. So I was a daddy's girl, very much so. And even now, you can hear my voice going 12, 13 years later. We thought Dad had been diagnosed early. He was living out in America at the time, and I remember the phone conversation when they said we found something on his lung. And we thought it was early, but unfortunately, as with most people, it wasn't. It had already spread by this point, and we lost him very, very quickly. We lost him within a matter of months. He never got to meet my now husband or judge him, which he probably would have done, and he didn't get to meet my twin boys, who I know he would have absolutely adored. And I was actually on mat leave when I got approached for this job. And at that point, as I said, twin newborns, the last thing I was thinking about was going back to work. And then as soon as I found out who it was for, the decision was made for me. I knew this is what I wanted to do.
Would your father have, I hope you don't mind me asking if you do tell me, but would your father's fight have been easier, better, more successful if he'd had that early diagnosis that the Roy Castle Lung Foundation has been advocating for so long and is making a real difference? Would that have made a difference to your father?
You never know, but I would have thought so. Like I've said, these programs, they get ahead of the disease. People are getting checked up before the symptoms even start, and that is part of the problem. The symptoms for lung cancer are at best vague, and we're currently living in a time where a cough is very readily associated with COVID rather than lung cancer. What the lung health checks do, and what we hope a national screening programme will then achieve, is to get people before those symptoms start and, have a very different outcome that sadly my family went through.
I don't know if you know, they always raise their eyes when I say this, but I was just merrily going by my way, I don't know, 2011, 12 out in America, and then you go to the doctor and he says you've got cancer, and it's that word, isn't it? And I think that word is so, I don't know, it's like being in the worst club in the world, isn't it? And you're in it, you don't want to be in it, and then you have chemo, and you almost feel peripheral, I think, to what's going on. You almost feel like even this out-of-body experience, you're looking in at what's happening. And I just remember going through it all and thinking, oh my God, the world stopped turning, and what is next? But the most important thing that I wanted to say today, and the reason I wanted to get you on as well, because I have the greatest respect for what you guys are doing. We are frightened as a nation, right? Of especially men, by the way. But it's true. Men don't like to admit that they... I mean, listen, I had testicular cancer. Can you imagine that, right? But the truth of the matter is, if you're listening to this morning and there is in any way, any part of your body or your anatomy or anything at all that's a concern, the message is, it is better to know. Rachel's just said it to you, that early screening process for lung cancer, breast cancer, testicular cancer, prostate cancer. It's yes, it's scary, but there are not only things that can be done, but the sooner, Rach, and this is the message, isn't it? The sooner you get to a position where you can have that help, the better, because people leave it. I remember, you'll identify with this, I remember going in to the doctors at about 7 o'clock at night, and I was in surgery 12 hours later. And they told me later on that it was 96% cancerous and I'd have been dead 6 months later. There was a man who had a scan that morning, and he was going on holiday to Hong Kong, and he said, I'll do it when I get back. And he went off for 3 weeks. He lasted 4.5 months. The message is really strong, isn't it? Go, if you have a concern, go and do something about it, right?
You're absolutely right. And it is terrifying, and we appreciate that. But it's always better to know. If something is there, it is not going to go away on its own. Yeah. You've got to go and do something about it. You've got to take those steps, and I appreciate people are still finding it difficult to get to their GP, but be persistent. Keep calling up, keep asking to see a GP, because the sooner lung cancer is caught, as with all cancers, the easier it is to treat.
And I think you make a really good point. We've had the pandemic, obviously, and a lot of people listening to that will say, but I can't get an appointment. You just have to somehow, whether it's on Zoom or whatever. And I want to bring in family members and friends, because we probably all know people who have said, oh, I don't feel like this or I don't feel like that. I had a friend who had problems and I had to literally push him to the doctors and it was fine. But we should be encouraging, I think, everybody of all age ranges, it doesn't matter, to go and get checked, because you make the point so well. I think people think if they hear that word, Rach, they think that's the end. I can only talk from my own experience. I was so, I don't know, when I say out of it, I did it, cancer, really? What? It's Friday night, I'm supposed to be working on Monday. Chemo, what does that mean? But you get through it, and you get through it because there is help out there. And so my message in doing this morning is, don't allow, obviously it's difficult in surgeries, obviously in the position so many people are in this morning, in this world, in this country, we push stuff to the back, don't we? And the message has to be, don't do that. That's what I would say. Let me just finish by talking about Roy Castle, the Lung Cancer Foundation. It's an amazing organisation that's been going 32 years, but you always need help and support. What can people do if they're listening this morning and they thought, what an amazing organisation?
there's so much they can do. You know, there's so many ways you can get involved with the charity, from different fundraising events. You can do a run, you can throw yourself out of a plane, you can bake a cake. Absolutely loads that you can do to support us, and we can't do the work we do without our incredible supporters, and we're very, very grateful for everything they do for us. So if you would like to get involved, or you would like to make a donation, then the best place to go is broycastle.org, and also on there lots of information about symptoms if you're concerned about symptoms, or if you're living with a lung cancer diagnosis. Lots of helpful information, access to our Ask the Nurse helpline, our forum. We're here to support you, and we hope you can support us in return.
I think that's the other thing as well, just to finish, and I'm so pleased to have spoken to you, Rach, is not only would we encourage people to grasp the nettle and go and get checked, talk about it, it's the oldest thing in the world, but a problem shared is a problem halved, and I promise you that there are people without any shadow of a doubt who have been in your position and can give you good practical advice. A real pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much indeed. Rachel Avery, Director of Marketing and Communications at the Royal Castle Lung Cancer Foundation, an amazing organisation. It is World Cancer Day. Listen, we're not going to go on about it. Safe to say, anything at all, do something about it. There are answers. If you want to be on between now and 10, 0344 499 1000. This is Talk Radio Breakfast.
Rinda Talk.